now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled Rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome and welcome back, everybody.
Hey, hey, hey.
It's me, Daniel,
And this is Ben.
on Spoiled Rotten.
Today, we are
Is-
doing... Sorry about that.
No,
I thought that
you,
was opening
you
for
were
me.
right to jump in there.
Yeah. Today, we're doing the Fox movie tier list.
Mm-hmm.
Very exciting stuff.
You're gonna find out what we think. Do they have any S tier? Do they have any F tier? Well, let's get into it, right?
Yeah.
Well, first off is X-Men 2000.
The OG.
I feel like when we were doing the revisits, I was like, yeah, I mean, this is pretty good actually. This is pretty solid. I still don't love it like some other people might, but I do think it's pretty solid. For me, it's like B level.
Oh, really? I had it at A. I liked it very, very much. I thought the casting was very much on point. It definitely changed things a lot because of what the expectations between the TV show were in regards to how they used Rogue and all that kind of stuff. But I really enjoy this movie. I think it really launched the superhero kind of thing really, really well. Especially because they got like Sir Ian McKellen as Magneto and Patrick Stewart, as Xavier, and of course the infamous Hugh Jackman. I think there's a lot that they got right with this movie.
Well, I mean, the one thing I definitely have to give it credit for is they didn't actually get the casting for Wolverine right, but they certainly made it work. I think Hugh Jackman became Wolverine, like even though everyone points out that he doesn't look like him, he doesn't really. Well, I don't think he fully acts like him from the comics, but he became Wolverine for all intents and purposes. So I do think A makes sense in terms of how they kind of planted their flag and made you adjust to what they wanted to do. All right.
Are we willing to settle on A, or are we going to B? Okay.
We can do A.
Sweet.
It's a funny drop off to Daredevil.
Oh boy.
2003. We did do an episode with Andrew Young from Geek Hard. I think I liked it more than both of you.
Yep.
I also didn't watch the director's cut. Yeah. To me, this is like C level. I think it's I don't think it's the most offensive. I feel like it's trying to do something. I feel like that I'm giving it at least that it's trying something, and everything you guys described from the director's cut made it seem better than what I liked already. So it's hard for me to put it lower.
I think this is hilarious because I have it lower than C.
Yeah, but you liked it less than I did.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Right. I misheard you. Yeah, I have it at D tier. I didn't think it was egregiously. I do think it's a bad movie overall, and that's just because I'm like, it feels like we're trying to do Batman, and obviously with Ben Affleck's, later on he does become Batman. It's just like, okay, that tracks, that's consistent and all that kind of stuff. But there was some weird stuff here in Daredevil that I didn't really love. Am I willing to go up to C? Yeah, that's where I had originally had it. But then when I looked at my list again, I'm like, C. Oh, I'm giving it a little bit more credit than
I think for me the reason I have it at C is just it is doing weird things, but it feels demonstrably less embarrassed to be a comic book movie than the original X-Men. So I also give it credit there. So yeah, it doesn't fully mesh, but it is like, yeah, like to me, B, like bare minimum B would be like it actually nailed what it was going for, whatever that is, which we can both agree it doesn't. But it is trying to do something a bit more. Maybe this is unfair. I think the way I look at it is X-Men at A is good because it's like, all right, this is what they're doing. Everyone's just on board.
Mhm.
versus, which means they're not really doing the comic book stuff. Like
Yep.
there's hints to it, but all throughout that movie they're making fun of it. Like, oh, what is your
Yeah.
name? Wheels, and oh, your name's Storm. Like every step of the way they're making fun of it.
Yeah, even the yellow spandex kind of comment
Yes,
that he
yeah.
has. Yeah.
So then you get Daredevil, where I don't feel like they're making fun, and they actually went
Mhm.
even harder with Bullseye because he doesn't usually dress like that.
Mhm.
I mean, yes, he has an outfit, but even in the Netflix show, it was like, yeah, it's just the Daredevil outfit, but like with some changes. This was
Yep.
like, no, he's got a big bullseye on his actual forehead, and he does these crazy things.
Mhm.
So, and I like Michael Clark Duncan as Kingpin. It just it didn't work, but they were trying something.
Yeah, and Michael Clark Duncan had the build to portray a really good Kingpin, and I really love that decision. A lot of people were like, he should be, and I'm like, look, we get where that's coming from. He is just such an effective Kingpin where he's menacing, he's charming as well when he needs to be. He checks all those boxes for me, and his build, like again, massive dude. Like honestly, like that final fight when Daredevil is going up against Kingpin, you're just like, I like the idea that it feels like Daredevil in his own movie does feel like the underdog going into that fight,
Mm-hmm.
and that's very effective for me. So I was being harsh when I had D, which is why I'm very, very, very happy to move it up to C. It's just
Right.
not everything clicked to me, right? Like the whole like, oh, we're doing basketball fight.
Yeah,
It's like,
the Elektra stuff is weird. Uh,
yes,
there's no doubt about it,
yeah,
especially killing her off in that movie.
yeah. But
But
they were very, very faithful to the stuff. Like they had Stick, they had
like,
Foggy,
do
they
they
had
have Stick in it?
yeah. Do
I don't think they do.
I might be misremembering. I might be
Stick
cross
is definitely
referencing.
an Elektra.
Yes, yes. The hand is an Electra as well.
Yeah,
But yeah, okay, I'll pull back on that one. But I
you
like
might
the
be right. I
Foggy.
just feel like they kind of skip over the Stick stuff.
Yeah, and I do like John Favreau as
Foggy
Foggy. I really,
and
really like
Kevin
that.
Smith as whoever the fuck he was.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we're okay with C.
I'm good with C. I'm very good with C for sure.
All right, same year, 2003 is X2, X-Men United. I won't have any preamble. I think this is S tier. Like the more I sit with it, the
Yeah,
more I'm like, this is great.
it's
It's
a
like
great movie.
it's a great use of having that big of a cast and being like, and now they have to work together against the humans that are actually against them.
Mhm. It had a lot of great stuff going for it. I think it promises something that we'll talk about later. That like in the
Oh,
era
okay.
before the post-credit scene, and it's like, where are they going? I think it made a very, very effective use of like the Phoenix thing and all that kind of stuff. It was just I think it had a lot of great core moments of what a comic book movie is, and then that movie itself is just really, really
And
good.
and I think yeah, it does a thing of like if you liked the first movie, um, the way it opens, even you're like, oh shit, like it's just better already.
Yeah.
Like the Nightcrawler stuff. But then for me personally, I loved
Hmm.
the Nightcrawler stuff. I don't mean to be like, yeah, that was whatever. But for me, it was like, oh my goodness, when Wolverine has to save the school, and he
Hmm.
pretty much goes like berserker, and he actually puts his claws right into people's chests. I'm like, oh, they're doing it. They're
Yeah.
doing X-Men. Okay, okay,
Yeah. It's
perfect.
yeah, because the complaint for the animated series is, and because it is a kids show, yeah, they're
Mhm.
not gonna do that to like people, but he can like go berserk on like sentinels and like stuff
Yeah.
like that. But like in this movie, I'm like, oh, they're doing it. And then the idea, like he got shot in the head and the
Hmm.
bullet came up. I'm like, that was really well done. That was really, really well done. And it does speak to, I think, a thing that you and I really like, that commentary about the cops, whether or not that was their intent, that they'll just shoot you, if, all that kind of stuff. And the fact that they were like, that look back that he has towards the cop that shot him, it was so good. It
Or
was such a good,
when he even hears that they called the cops.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's very, very good. And there's a lot of great stuff there. Like the Iceman coming out kind of thing. It's like, have you tried not being a mutant? I'm like,
Yeah.
that's really funny. There's a lot of good stuff in this um the whole thing. And it does go towards like Charles Xavier not being a naive kind of thing of being like, yeah, there's exit strategies built into the mansion and all that kind of stuff in case this kind of stuff were to ever happen. I'm like, this is great. It's a great, great comic book movie. I 100% with you. S tier.
Yep, great movie.
Mhm.
Yeah, this movie I had to watch this week because I'd never seen it before. Elektra, 2005.
Yikes.
You know what's interesting is I don't think it's good. To be clear, I don't think it's good. But I
Okay.
was like, oh, I see how this could have been a good idea for a movie. Like this, the if you're like me and had never seen it, the main setup is she gets put on a mission, and then is like, oh no, this guy. She's a contract killer, to be clear,
Mhm.
and they kind of just, or at least I wasn't paying attention when they're just like, yeah, Stick brought her back to life. Shut up about it.
Yeah.
And then so she's like, it seems like she's supposed to take out this guy, and then she sees he has a daughter, and then you remember how she's like, oh man, like I wish I had a good relationship with my parents. So she's like, I'm not gonna kill him. And
Yep.
then it turns out that they are comic book characters, Mark Miller, Abby Miller, and she's the treasure. I feel like that's a thing, and
Yeah.
it gets caught up in this whole like the hand comes for her, but like I feel like Typhoid Mary's in this. There's a
Mhm.
bunch of like maybe not mutants, but like Marvel villains that I
Mhm.
don't think they do a great job of making feel like real threats. But the general idea that it's like, oh, this was a contract that she's like, oh, I can't, I gotta save them, and that means that people go after her like a bunch of assassins. I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, I would watch this as just uh an Electro one-off movie, but
Mhm.
it has the weight of. But didn't she die in the last movie? And then this is just a different story that could have been a prequel and didn't have to be that she was brought back to life.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is that why didn't they make it a prequel? Because it would have
Because they made her become Elektra in Daredevil, so there isn't really any room. But you are
that.
just
Oh
like,
yeah, that's
but
right.
you are just like, look, why are we forcing this?
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I don't think it's good. But I was like, oh, I see what could have been good about this.
Yeah.
Um,
It feels like a movie written by committee and with started off with a good idea, right? It's just like, okay, if you just get over the fact that Stick Brock, like she comes back to life and all that kind of stuff, and doesn't look for Matt Murdock
mhm.
ever in that, and just kind of because they didn't have the budget, obviously they didn't have the budget. They're just like, okay, I'm going to do this. There's a lot of good elements within the actual movie. It's just the execution of it, not great at all. But
Yeah. To me, this was D because I was like, this feels like it got away from them more than people went into it being like, whatever.
I agree. Yeah, I had it at D tier as well.
Uh, yeah, I was surprised because at first I was like, oh, this is gonna be shit, but I was surprised at how often I was like, I mean, I would if they took this, if this wasn't taken away from them as it seems it was, this could have been good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or a better version of itself.
Yeah.
But
All
yeah.
right. So that's electric. Now we've got Fantastic Four, the first one, Tim Story, 2005.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna Yeah, I'm not really gonna do. To me, this is also D. I just don't care about
Really?
Fantastic Four. I don't think it's. Maybe it's C. You know what? Maybe it's C. I
Okay.
don't think it's that good. I don't. I think when we were revisiting it, especially, I know we did it as a group of them, but I just don't really think Fantastic Four lends itself to movies. It's such a serialized thing that it feels like you need to just be doing like adventure of the week type
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, obviously, I assume you have it higher, but like I just,
I do.
it's not. It is not for me.
I have it at B tier. And the reason why is because I think objectively it's a fun movie. They're having fun a lot of the times through, but I see what you're saying in regards to how the Fantastic Four generally has to be a serialized thing where it's like, yeah, it's the, again, like you said, monster of the week that we're taking down. How are we going to do it? It objectively has downfalls in the sense where like that's really how easily it was to take care of Doom. Okay, that sucks. But I now that I'm reading more of the comics, I think the Fantastic Four is now interesting but largely from the perspective of how much of a dick Reed actually is, and how like and kind of like in many ways he's Dr. Manhattan-esque, where he's so smart that he's so removed from the people he's around. And I think that's genuinely interesting. Doesn't come across in this movie whatsoever.
Yeah,
They're still very much doing, hey, we're a family, we're good with each other. The biggest issue within the fracture within this is, of course, the Ben Grimm stuff. And how like they're visually reminded of Reed's failure and his or just the accident, and how
because
Ben
it
can't
doesn't
have
really feel like Reed's failure in this
Yeah.
version.
yeah
It
not-
really does just feel like, yeah, it's just a shit thing that happened.
Yeah.
I think for exactly what you're saying is why I don't have it at B, because
Sure.
I think Fantastic Four was not a new thing. Like it comes before X-Men even. So it's like
Yep.
everyone knows what works about it.
Mhm.
And I feel like they fall flat on that stuff. Like, yes, I think the Thing stuff in general is fun, and not even just fun, but it's an emotional anchor to it.
Mhm.
Especially when you got like Kerry Washington and stuff. But
Mhm.
I do think from reading more Fantastic Four comics now that what I see being set up in the movie coming out next year feels like they actually understand where to go with it, and that
Mhm.
you would, and it's probably good that Iron Man's dead in the MCU right now, that he has that moment that Tony had in Age of Ultron of like, oh my god, we went out there and I saw Galactus. This is what I'm focused on now.
Yep.
So it's not necessary. I mean, yes, you can do it. These movies try to do it this way, that he's just so smart he doesn't think about human thing. But I think what makes Reed interesting is that you don't think he's a dick. You're just like, oh, why aren't you putting that energy into the actual human connection? Because he is so consumed with saving humans. None of that comes across in here, and it does feel like, whatever. Yeah, to me it feels like the Daredevil stuff of like, yeah, they're doing the comic book stuff, but like in name only and not quite executed to even the caliber or the calibration they're going for.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, that's from me. I think if you really wanted to go for B,
Oh
I
no, I
wouldn't
don't.
fight it on you, but I do think that there's so many interesting things
Mhm.
now that I've actually read more comics about Reed in particular and how that ties into everybody,
Mhm.
that these movies don't do that. None of the movies so far have done it. I'm not trying to make it seem like, oh, this one sucks because it doesn't do it. Like, none of them have done it. But it is the origin one. It is the one not interested in just monster of the week, adventure of the week stuff. So like, you should nail that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the thing I do like about Fantastic Four, and I'm moving it down to C tier right with you, because I am not going to die on this hill to be B tier. The Fantastic Four, the thing I like about it is like when they come together at the end as an actual unit and all that kind of stuff. You can, I do like the idea that, okay, the accident divides them in many, many ways. And it's just, okay, they're like Johnny in particular, he's consumed by the fame and all that kind of stuff. He's not willing to work as a part of that family, and he just gets further and further away from it. I like that kind of stuff. And then at the end, it's like, hey, how are we going to beat this? And there's that good throwback to like, what happens to metal when you cool it down?
Supernova.
I think that's really, really good what they do, and be like, okay, good, yeah, they're a family now. It worked together. They're working together, and I could get on board with that, and they have a lot of fun. For better or worse, they have a lot of fun, right? Obviously, the Reed, I'm being like, okay, he's actually very, very interesting. It's kind of a dick, and I like dick characters because it's just like, yeah, there's a lot of conflict. There's more interesting stuff to explore there. But this was more focused, what I think personally was the early era of Fantastic Four, where they are the first superhero family, and they're just like charming and fun and all that kind of stuff. It felt like they were going for that vibe more than what I know is the later iterations of
Well,
Reed
I mean,
and Fantastic Four and stuff.
The conflict is always there, right?
Yep.
Like that. Whether or not the population likes them, there's still the internal friction always.
Sure.
No matter what era you're reading. But yeah, Um, yeah, I just don't think they quite landed it. In addition to me just not really liking the movies or Fantastic Four that much.
Mhm.
Um, X-Men: The Last Stand, 2007. 2006. Sorry.
2006.
I don't know. I don't like the movie. I
I
I
don't
think
like it
there's
either.
some moments. I don't even mean like. Yeah, I do mean scenes. Like there's Wolverine out in the woods, and I'm like, yeah, he's doing Wolverine stuff. This is great. And
Yeah.
I do remember feeling like when it happened in the theater, I was like, this guy just is Wolverine. Like this, I remember just thinking at the same simultaneously thinking this movie sucks, but wow, like he is such a good Wolverine.
Hmm.
Uh, I think Kelsey Grammer as Beast is great.
Hmm.
Um, I like that they pretended like Storm was going to be a leader at the beginning of the movie and then just kind of dropped it all.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't really like it. There's just too many storylines going on. It's like the cure for things and
Hmm. And
Angel for some reason. Like I get how everything's tied to the cure, but it's just like it, Angel's just his own thing going on, and they didn't do a good job of tying him in directly to the team's journey. It's just
yeah,
he was on his own thing, and he's like, "Oh yeah, here I am, guys. I
I
tried to
I
cut my wings off earlier."
yeah, I feel like the Angel stuff is aside from like when that younger scene of him trying to file off his wings and try to hide it from
Hmm.
his parents and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, they're doing a very, very good allegory of being gay and LGBTQ and all that kind of stuff. And of course the AIDS kind of thing that they've always been going for in these movies. But the idea of like Storm being like, no, you're perfect the way you're. I'm like, she can't touch people. There are powers that are clearly better than others, and in her situation, she could kill someone if she touches them, or if they touch her. Right? It's just like, why would you blame her for doing that? And then the idea of being like, um, just try to influence someone's autonomy in regards to whether or not they want to take the cure, right? I think there's a lot of good, effective things here to be like, hey, this is the end of um Magneto in the regards of, oh, he got shot with the thing, and like threat eliminated at the time, a good ability to be like, this is how the overall trilogy is going to end off, right? Even though they had the little teaser at the end where he can move it and all that kind of stuff. But poor execution of Phoenix, poor execution of a lot of different things. It was overstuffed.
Hmm.
There was just too much going on here. And to me, I think one of the worst things was the abandoned Nightcrawler in this. Um, and I'm just like, but he was such a good part of X2. Why would you abandon it?
I don't think
Um,
he wanted to come back, and also
oh, I see.
everything we know about Bryan Singer, I could also see him being like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, great, don't bring me back. I don't give a fuck."
Yeah, I don't want to work with this guy. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair. It's yeah, off-screen stuff. Um, didn't didn't do well. But to me, one of the biggest things I did like about it was, oh my God, they killed Cyclops so early. Like that to me was wild at the
Yeah, I
time.
just don't. I don't at the. I don't think I ever liked it, only because I was
Mhm.
like, he didn't really get to do anything for me to feel like, oh no, Cyclops. I was just like, okay, yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah, no, I to me, I'm like, that was what set the stakes. I'm like, okay, they're gonna kill people off and all this kind of stuff. And they do follow through with like, oh yeah, okay, Wolverine's got to kill Jean, all this kind of stuff. Like there was good stuff there, poorly executed, not a good movie. Too many, too many ideas, none of them
It's funny that I
worked
was like,
well.
there's too many ideas, and I didn't even remember it's the Dark Phoenix one. It's
Yeah,
just like,
well,
oh
that's
right, there's there. Oh yeah, that.
yeah, it's the biggest thing. It's just like, oh, we get Phoenix. This is gonna be wild. Nope, none of the Phoenix stuff carried through. It's just like, oh yeah, you have an overpowered gene that just, for lack of a better term for this movie, just switched sides to Magneto's side. That's about it.
Yeah, I don't. I think this will come up again. I don't really care about the Dark Phoenix saga, so it is not really. I wasn't like, oh no. I was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, I think when we rewatched the TV show, I was like, oh, I see what's interesting about this. I get
Mhm.
why people like it so much, but I didn't even like it then. So I was just like, at least I get the hype now, but I've never felt drawn to that storyline
Yeah.
or that element of Jean Grey.
Yeah.
I know it's a big part of her, but I also don't really care about Jean Grey until X-Men 97.
It's true. It's true. Jean as a character, it's herself was very much like you just kind
And I don't mean
of
that in the comics, because I didn't read enough comics to be like, oh yeah, it's we obviously grew up with the X-Men animated series, and then we had these X-Men movies. I don't think those iterations did her justice.
yeah. And I will say right now, I am reading like an X-Men run of the comics, and there's not a lot of Jean Grey focus there. I'm just like, okay, it's like Cyclops and Storm, like conflict between the both of them are constantly interesting. There's barely any focus on Jean Grey. So I'm, and again, it's just one run of the comics that I'm reading through, but I hope at some point I'm like, oh, okay, I see what people see behind Jean. Aside from the fact that it's just like, okay, you're an overpowered damsel in distress is what it constantly feels like to me, because it's just like, all right, you're this powerful, but you always faint. You always do this.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. If you
Yeah.
actually grew up reading it week by week and that
Mhm.
was your thing, you just have an affinity for the characters you grew up with.
Right.
Um, and we already had a version of her in TV and movies that we were like meh
Mhm.
about. So it's harder for us to go back and not read exactly what other people were reading and be like, oh, I see what people get out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think we put a tier to this. I'll just say mine first, but I have this at D tier.
Yep, that's fine with me.
Beautiful.
I was like, I don't care where we put this. I don't like it.
Well, we're not.
I didn't
putting
think
it...
you were gonna put it any higher than C. So
No,
I was like, I don't care.
No. I mean, I think you would care if I put it at A tier.
Yeah.
You'd be like, no, we gotta knock Ben down a peg.
Okay. Rise of the Silver Surfer. This is in 2007. The second Tim Story Fantastic Four.
Mhm.
I like this less than the first Fantastic Four, so I'll say that ahead of time. But what I think it has going for it is that they're embracing the idea that, like, right away, oh yeah, okay, Silver Surfer, we're just dealing with this now.
Yeah.
It's just like the fun of watching the team deal with the new thing is there. You don't have any of the awkwardness from the first movie. That's just, I don't care for it.
Yeah.
At all.
I thought the best element of this movie was the design of the Silver Surfer. I thought the Silver Surfer looks so cool. They nailed that design, and they were like, yeah, this is our big selling point. But then the Galactus thing at the end is just like, it's a giant cloud. It sucks. It just sucks. With you, I like this less than Fantastic Four, which I'm pretty sure we have this at the same level of ranking. But yeah, and seeing Doctor Doom on the board was kind of cool too. But
I think that's part of what I didn't like. I was like, oh, just have him be powerful without someone else's shit.
Fair enough.
I'm not saying it's bad. I don't think it's objectively bad. I was just, you said that, and I was like, yeah, I think that's a good visual, but it just was part of the reason why I was like, I don't even know why we brought him back for this. Like, this should have been just Silver Surfer and Galactus, but
yeah,
he's back, and then he's using the Silver Surfer's board as if like he can't be a threat on his own. Like,
right.
It's just weird.
I do agree that why bring him back in this one? Because I'm like, if they were going for a trilogy, which I assume that it is, if it had a second one, why not bring Doom back more powerful in the third one, with a couple of other villains and all that kind of stuff, right? That would have been a little bit more effective to me. But they're just like, well, we gotta bring him back. And I'm like, why though? Galactus is a big enough threat. It's just, I thought the depiction of Silver Surfer was good. I thought when he was depowered off the board looked so cool too.
Yeah.
But it's a thin movie. It's a thin movie. I have it at D tier.
Yeah, me too.
Beautiful.
Me too. Yeah, I don't think, as we said, there's things to enjoy about it, but it's just not for me.
Yeah.
I do know people that think it's better than the first one.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But I think it's predominantly an aesthetic thing. And that is like, to me, I distinctly remember, I'm like, CGI doesn't suck anymore. This is great. Um, so that's what I think was really good about it was the visual aesthetics of it. Even though the thing didn't get an upgrade in regards to how they looked. But
I don't think they needed an up. I don't think the thing needed an upgrade, did he?
no, but it's just like didn't look great. I get
Fair
it, but
Fair
we'll
enough.
see. We'll see.
Wolverine, X-Men Oranges, 2009.
I will be honest. I do not remember the differences between this. This is this the Deadpool one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Okay. So this is
I don't remember you mean you don't remember this? The difference between this and the Wolverine?
yes.
Yeah, fair enough. I didn't even remember to put it on the initial list, so there's that. I'm talking about the Wolverine.
Okay.
Yeah, X-Men Oranges. I keep saying oranges. Origins. I only like the beginning part.
hmm
I like when they are the team,
hmm
and then I don't like it anymore. It doesn't
Yeah.
look good. There's just certain things where I'm like, why is this happening? Like the whole like we made it seem like we killed your girlfriend, but we didn't really. I'm like, this was what? And then when they were like, it's Deadpool, only we will take away
No.
everything that makes Deadpool Deadpool.
Yeah, we're
Uh,
only going to give him Deadpool personality before he gets the actual powers, and then once he gets the powers, no, shut him up. And it's just like, why?
Also, I have a vendetta against this movie, or I feel a way about this movie because I kept trying to watch it in theaters to watch and hopefully get the post-credit scene that had Deadpool waking up, and I never got to see that in theaters. I think I saw it like 3 times, and I was like, again with the Japanese ending? Why? Why does this movie hate me?
Was that a thing? Like, I'm sure you.
There was different post-credits depending on what, like when you saw the movie.
Oh
So there
God.
was like, there's the one that sets up the Wolverine where he's
Mhm.
in Japan, and then there's the one where Deadpool wakes up. Either or, like it was like a fun way to, and it worked on me obviously because I kept going back to the theater to see if I could see it.
Yeah, they definitely pulled the switcheroo on you.
Yeah,
Um,
3 times in a row, just the Japanese. And so then I ended up watching it like on like a poor cam grab on YouTube and being like,
sure.
I just wish I saw this in theaters.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely would have evoked a different emotion for sure. I don't have a lot of good things to say about this movie. I don't remember this movie well enough to
I also
be
don't really like Liev Schreiber as uh
Sabretooth.
Sabretooth.
Yeah.
I think he's a good actor and whatever he's doing is fine for the movie.
hmm
But I was just like, he just isn't Sabretooth to me.
I agree.
Like I don't know. I know that's unpopular. I know people really like him and people were upset he wasn't in Deadpool and Wolverine, but I was
Mhm.
just like, he's just, and I'm not saying that the other guy is a great Sabretooth either. Like when we rewatched the show, it's like, no, Sabretooth can talk. Like he does, he can do things.
Mhm.
It's just, he doesn't just go, huh. But like, also, you just didn't really try to make Liev Schreiber look like Sabretooth, in my
Yeah.
opinion. He just looks like Liev
Yeah.
Schreiber with nails.
I agree. It was one of those things where I'm like, what is happening with this character design? And I didn't ever want to say that as a point because I'm like, maybe there's a comic run where he does look like that. I don't know because
I'm sure
obviously
now
a
there
lot of
is.
different. Yeah, I'm sure now there is, but back then I'm like, I'm pretty sure the whole idea of Sabretooth was supposed to be a more unhinged version of Wolverine,
Or at
and
least
that
like actually
know,
towering over Wolverine and
yeah,
feeling like an actual threat.
yeah. I don't like it, and it's just why were they teammates? That part really sucked.
They were always teammates. That's the part. That's the thing.
Oh,
Is
is
that
it? Okay.
Sabretooth is jealous that Wolverine got the full. It is what's interesting about them that obviously Wolverine is like they fucking ruined my life, and
hmm
Sabretooth's over there being like, why did he get to get the full skeleton adamantium and everything?
Like the full
And
upgrade, yeah.
yeah, like he got the full upgrade, whereas Wolverine's like, oh my god, like my whole life is ruined because of this.
Right.
That's the interesting part. So
hmm
that makes sense to me that they are part of Weapon X, and the animosity comes from Sabretooth being like, what the fuck did you give that to him for? He sucks.
hmm
I'm the best.
Okay.
Um, But yeah, I don't think I necessarily love that they were brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that's not a thing in the comics. I just was so used to it not being talked about that I was like, oh, I guess they're making it that they're brothers.
Yeah.
And even in Deadpool and Wolverine, they don't make it seem like they're brothers,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is weird. Yeah, he'd be like, yeah, I'll just kill my brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I don't know if the one part of the first 10 minutes of me liking it is worth bumping it up from F, but I don't know. I'll listen to you.
I have it at C.
No chance.
No
No
chance.
chance.
And
I'll put it
again,
down to D.
I'm not willing to defend that, but if you were to put it to F, I'm like, I see all the points that you're making.
Well, since
Here.
you're at C, I will put it at D in the middle of our thing.
Sure. I don't think it's good enough to be at D though, now that I remember more of it.
Well, what do you want to do then?
I'm with you, F. Let's put it to F tier. It just needs to be done. Like what they did with Deadpool is by far. I'm like, have you not read a Deadpool comic? What are you doing? That was such a big thing, and that's not the one where we get Gambit, is it?
Yeah,
That's
he's in it.
He's in. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Definitely F tier. Oh god, F tier for
I
sure.
really didn't like that. People were like, "Yeah, Taylor Kitsch was good as Gambit." I was like, "No, he wasn't."
No, he wasn't.
That hasn't. I don't think he's a good actor necessarily.
Mhm.
Like in what I've seen him in,
Mhm.
which is not Friday Night Lights. So I'm assuming that's what people like him in. But I've
Sure.
seen him in True Detective. I've seen him in this. Like they were really pushing him on us at one point. So I've
Mhm.
seen his stuff. I've seen John Carter. He's
Not
not
a
for
fan.
me.
Not a fan.
He's
Yeah.
not for me. But I also don't think he was done any favors with the material they gave him.
I agree. Yeah, the fact that Gambit was in this movie and something that I so easily forgot. I'm like, yeah, let's put this to F tier. Don't know why I had it at C. Again, it's probably because I forgot a lot of this movie.
It's easy to just remember the first 10 minutes and be like, yeah, that was a cool like team dynamic.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now here's the bounce back. X-Men First Class 2011.
Bounce back indeed.
To me, this is S tier. I think this is a great reset. Like, just again try to ground you, especially as you said, the first version had Ian McKellen and I was called him Patrick Picard, Patrick Stewart, and I felt like, wow, okay, James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender just took over, and not as in they replaced them, but it's not like you spent the whole movie being like, but why isn't it the other guys?
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it was just like, yeah, this is the team now. I will follow this team.
Mm-hmm.
They got scared right away and brought back the other guys, but for this movie, I was just like, this is great. I felt like it had more to say. That's a lot due to a different director coming in, and obviously because of when it's set, has a lot to do with like civil rights, but really picking up on also the discrimination of Jewish people, which is present in the first movie. Obviously, we know how it starts, but this movie also starts there and then takes it further, and improves on it. In my eyes,
I also have this at S tier. The only gripe I have with this movie is how fast it killed off Darwin. Sure, but everything about this movie, the set design, the casting in itself, like Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah, because I wasn't like, I'd seen Winter's Bone, but I was like, oh, okay. And then obviously after this, she also does Hunger Games, and you're like, oh, so she's got two big franchises, right?
Yeah, yeah. There was a lot of promise and really, really great stuff in S tier for sure. Because getting Peter Dinklage as Trask was really, really effective here too.
That's not in this movie.
That's not this one? God, just for crossing all over. My memory is just not good. I'm glad that you said that. But yeah, Fassbender as Magneto, I'm all for this. This is great. He is so good in this role. But yeah,
and I like that James McAvoy understands that Xavier is a cad. Like with his first scene, like hitting on that woman, and we've already talked about the whole, hey, you've got two different eyes, that means you're a mutant. And then obviously the setup is like, oh, Mystique is his sister, but you, like from the beginning, you see him treating her poorly.
Yes.
Like he is kind of like, hey, you know, get away from me. I'm trying to work on something here.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah.
just the idea of like, ugh, why are you blue? Gross.
Yeah.
Not for me. Get it out of here. And so even in that, where they're starting off with like, oh, she's on uh Charles's side. I
Mhm.
wanted to call him Patrick so bad. She's on Charles's side, and you're just like the whole movie, like, yeah, of course she's gonna go with Magneto. He
Mhm.
accepts her, but also even if he didn't accept her, her brother, for all intents and purposes, is an ass to her most
Yeah.
of the time, like making her feel uncomfortable looking the way she should look.
Yeah. I think it McAvoy's depiction of that is very, very good because it's just like, hey, yeah, the idea of passing and not from a racialized standpoint, it's just like, yeah, he gets the privilege of passing, he gets the
Mm-hmm.
privilege of all these privileges and all that kind of stuff. He doesn't actually know what that oppression actually is because he gets the opportunity to be like, I can change your mind, all this kind of stuff. Versus like Magneto, even though Magneto can pass, he's like, no, this is what we're actually fighting for, and all this
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff. He recognizes that, and to have, um, I guess I can call her Raven, Raven, like go be a point between the both of them is just genuinely so interesting to me. And I'm like, this is great. This is absolutely amazing. And where they open with the Jewish stuff and the Nazi stuff, to me, I'm like, this is
Yeah, and
so
having
good with
Magneto
Sebastian.
hunt down all of the
Yeah,
Nazis that were able to fly away to South America.
yeah,
That was great stuff.
mhm.
And yeah, I really do like Kevin Bacon in this.
Yeah.
Seb-
Kevin Bacon's really good. That's for
I'm a
sure.
Sebastian Stan. Jeez. I'm having a bad day today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought Kevin Bacon was great because I remember being like, Kevin Bacon as the villain, who cares? And then
Hmm.
I feel like even in his first scene, I was like, oh shit, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. They
Uh,
do a lot of good with this movie for sure.
and yeah, the Darwin thing, I just remember. I know the joke is remember when they killed the one character who can adapt, and I was just like, yeah, it wasn't great, but I also got that it was like this is also the black experience of
Hmm.
like of the people like also Angel, not the same Angel, but also Angel and Zoe Kravitz being like, yeah, I guess why would I stand with the people that don't want to acknowledge the way people treat me, and why wouldn't I stand with the guy who's speaking my language?
Hmm.
And then there's the people like, no, I got to fight for this, and then you're gonna, yeah, there's gonna be dead bodies that when people stand up for what they actually believe in.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's and I can see a writer thinking it's smart to kill off the one person who can adapt to anything,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty sure that it's Sebastian who kills him who also can adapt. Like that's
Yes.
kind of his thing is like he takes on the energy and then he can put it back at you.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't think it ultimately makes sense, but it emotionally worked for me.
Yes. I 100% agree. And like I said, that's the only gripe I have with the movie. But when you think of how it actually, you can really see what the writers were going for to be like, this is the guy that can adapt and he got killed. So
Mm-hmm.
here's where the stakes are. I'm like, yeah, that's effective. But mm, at the
Yeah.
end of the day, I'm like, could someone else have died? Like Havoc? Sure. Especially because they don't use him again.
Well, I mean, he
um,
is in all the movies. He's just
he is,
not
but
used properly.
exactly. Yeah, this is easily an S tier movie to me, for sure.
The Wolverine, which you've already said you don't remember. It is
No, I do remember this one
okay.
better because I'm like, this is the one he's in Japan.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is good until the end. It's like the opposite of X-Men Origins for me.
Yeah.
It's like the same amount of bad, or sorry, whatever. It's the opposite. I already said it. I'm with the movie until the end, and then I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, what? This is the Silver Samurai fight where I'm just like, why did they do it this way? Like could have been so much better.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I do remember this being better than the Origins movie. I liked the fact that he was in Japan and how he was treated and all that kind of stuff. And the bone claws, I think, were a nice little like visual thing. Um, I have this at B tier. I don't know if
Or if
that's too
I had
high.
it at C, I could put it at B. I don't care.
You know,
I
because it's
I don't
weird
feel
to
strongly
me.
about it.
Yeah, to me, it's weird to be like X-Men Origin Wolverine is at C tier, but then we're gonna have
Well, right now it's at F, so you would have been safe.
oh oh okay. I did a copy and not a cut on my thing. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's at I C is it's a good landing spot for me.
I'll put it at B. I know
Yeah.
people like it. It's not my it's not ultimately my cup of tea, but I do
Mhm.
remember thinking like scenes that they kept promoting in the ads that actually felt worthwhile were like the bullet train scene. I was like, oh shit, like this actually
Mhm.
is exciting.
Yeah.
Like actually experiencing this. I like it. Wasn't a fan of like the Jean Grey stuff. I understand why it's
Yeah.
there, but I was kind of like, can we move on from this already?
Hmm.
Well, that's another thing I love about First Class is the cameo of Wolverine because I remember having it spoiled and being like, that's not real. They would never swear in these movies, and why
Yeah.
would they bring back Wolverine? But then he was there, and I was like, well, worth it.
Yeah.
That was some good stuff. Um, but yeah, it's fine, and then it goes right into Days of Future Past
Yeah.
without much explanation. It's like, yeah, you only have your bones. You're here, and then Magneto and Professor X are like, "Hey, come with us." And he's like, "Sure." And then next time you see him, he's just back to being regular Wolverine. And I'm like, "What? Why didn't they explain how he got the medal back?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially since they connected it to the last movie where he had wooden.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever."
Yeah. They were pretty weird about that. But yeah.
It's whatever. Oh, and I think people like it because the woman in it predicts his death in Logan, like down to the details of dying with your heart in your hand.
Right.
Not
Right.
enough for me. But yeah, I'll put it at B. I don't care.
Yeah. I don't think that makes this movie better. It's just like,
I think people really like Wolverine, and with
yeah.
you, I told you about how on Threads we post that thing about like how there shouldn't be a priority on solo movies, and
Mhm.
everyone got mad at us. Everyone kept bringing up these movies, and I was like, this does not disprove the point that was trying to be made by the post.
Yeah, because the
These
post
movies
is
came after 3 team movies.
yeah, and then not only that, it's like we even have them establishing teams within the movie itself. It's not officially X-Men. It's just like, okay, we got X-Force
Yeah,
basically.
I don't think people were like you can't have it has to be the character by themselves. I just
Mhm.
think they're in their head thinking that if a post says it shouldn't be prioritized, it means it should never happen, and it's never happened. And if it does happen, we're gonna riot in the street. And
Mhm.
all it was trying to say was, why don't we establish them as a team first before spinning them off?
Yep.
It isn't the same as the Avengers coming together.
Right.
They are different that way.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's an actual bond there, one through them being at the same school, two from them being mutants and persecuted in a different way than
Yeah.
the heroes of the Avengers are. Those guys are just like, yeah, whatever, let's hang out.
Yeah, they got privileges and all that kind of stuff. The
Yeah,
X-Men don't. That's the whole point of it. It's just like if you are an oppressed group, you don't win by yourself.
you gotta be together.
You gotta, yeah, you
You
gotta
gotta work
stand
together.
together.
So
And
anyway,
that's what
yeah,
I really
I
do like
just
about the
it just
X-Men.
reminds me of that, just how much people were like stumping for the X-Men or the Wolverine solo movies, but
Yeah.
chronologically they come out after uh, the 3 team movies he was in. So
Yeah, yeah.
doesn't
And
really disprove the point that was trying to be made, which is
yeah.
establish the team first.
Yeah, and then I think people forget really quickly that there was supposed to be an X-Men Origins Magneto movie as well, and I'm like, that didn't work
Well, that was
out.
First Class though. They just
Well,
took
that
that and made
they
First
just
Class.
spun it into X
But
first, but
it was
yeah,
them knowing, oh, we can't just do a solo
yeah, exactly. And
because
they just pivoted
Wolverine
real
didn't work.
hard. Yeah, they pivoted real hard to First Class, and that was a good decision. It was a good decision. But yeah, it's I'm with you. They shouldn't be prioritized. That's the operative word here. It doesn't mean they shouldn't exist. It just
Yeah,
means that you really
they can come
gotta
later.
understand. It's like let's do a human, like a God, a thing movie before the Fantastic Four. You're like, what? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It establish them as a team first, and then right where the opportunity is.
I agree. Days of Future Past. I have this at A. I think
Yeah.
it's good until you think about all the different things it sets up that make no sense.
Yeah. It's great
Especially the endings,
because
which is very annoying.
yeah, it's very annoying. I like Days of Future Past because it's like, wow, they really wrote both franchises into the same movie very successfully until, like you said, let's start thinking about this a little bit more. And then you're like, wait, what? They do a lot of great things in here. I think visually, from a writing perspective, they do a lot of very clever things in a Days of Future Past kind of situation. But is it the best? Is it as good as First Class? No, no. I'm right with you. I have this at A tier because there are problems with this movie, but it's a good movie nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. And it's got Peter Dinklage as Bolivar Trask. So there you go.
Yeah.
Another
And
weird thing because he was played by Bill Duke in another movie. So
right.
it's a
I
real
will
pivot.
I do also like the evolution of the Sentinels in that movie
I don't
to
like
be
the
like
way they look finally. I was like, you guys had it better in Last Stand.
I mean I get it that the look is not the greatest, right? But the oh, that's how they evolved, is to use the powers against them, is a cool thing to me. And how they're like, here's how we've been eluding the Sentinels this whole time while they've been chasing us down. I'm like, that's cool. That's really cool. There's a lot of cool things in this. But it's not as good as First Class, for sure.
No, it's not, in my opinion.
Especially because you pointed out, it's like, hey, which version of Wolverine are we getting here? Because he just had the bone claws and then this and then this.
I'm not, yeah, that, and then the ending where it's like he's back with Stryker, but then Stryker's Mystique. I'm like, so she fucked him, like, not in sexually, not sexually, but like, so she just put him back where he was, instead of like being like, let me save you now.
Yeah,
like, I was like, why did you add this complication? I do not get this.
It is
never
going
to be addressed ever again.
Yeah, it's very weird. But yay, I guess. It sets up one really cool scene in the Dark Phoenix one. But I mean, aside from that, it's just like, that's just weird why you would be Stryker at the end of this. Where is Stryker? And have you been Stryker this whole time? We don't know. Yeah.
What's next? Oh yeah, Fan Four Stick, as people call it.
Fan Forced.
I think
this is the Michael B. Jordan version.
Yeah, I've said this before. Right? Yeah. I think as a way of trying to just create their own thing, it works until you like get most of the way through and you're like, are they ever gonna fucking leave this
like this facility?
Yeah. They're never gonna leave this facility. And so then it feels like, oh, someone tried to take this away from the storytellers.
Yeah.
Because there was even stuff in the trailers that just aren't in this movie, like Thing jumping out of the plane, and you see that he's been killing a bunch of people, but you hear, but they don't show you anything. It's just like, oh, this would have been a better movie. And then them getting scared about Doom versus Domashev, and even then I'm like, that makes more sense to me if you're doing your own thing and making him Victor Domashev. Like, no one's actually called Von Doom in that way, and so I would have been fine. But I liked that they set up their own world.
Yes.
And then it just completely is wasted potential.
Yeah.
After you realize the setup.
I love the ideas that they have here. I think they're really clever. I think they're really smart. And I think this is a version of Reed where I'm like, yeah, see, this is the Dick that's kind of interesting. He's kind of a coward at first too. And but he runs away. He abandons them like immediately. There's so many things about this that are very clever. And the third act falls apart entirely, obviously, right? And the idea of like, oh, okay, people like really shit on the fact that they basically get drunk and like, oh, we're just gonna go here. But I'm like, no, that makes so much sense. Yeah. Why would you shit on that? It's the idea of like, you've been working on this, it works, and you're not gonna be the first people there.
And it deals with the Reed and Ben tension a bit more directly.
Yes,
of like,
absolutely.
Even before you get there, is like, oh, but you're too smart for me, and him feeling abandoned. All of that works better for me than the Tim Story stuff. Even though it might not surprise people, I think the first Tim Story movie is better than this. It's just I liked where I thought it was going before it's very clear they've given up on it.
I did like the look of the thing here. I thought it's a really, really good design aesthetically. And there's so much that they had really, really good setup for here. And it's just like, aside from his meltdowns on set and how his behavior was and all that kind of stuff, I'm just like, I wonder what would happen if we actually got if it just didn't, he wasn't given too much, because it was clear that he wasn't ready to handle this kind of level of movie. But
I think after seeing his Capone movie that he might just not be that strong of a storyteller. What does seem to be true is that the death threats and harassment he was getting got to him.
Yep.
You mix that with the studio clearly wanting to take the movie away from you, and I'm not saying that they weren't taking it away because he was off the rails already, but I think all of that doesn't excuse, but I'm like, I get the erratic behavior. I understand it. But yeah, I feel like the Capone movie is like, well, this is him getting to do exactly what he wants to do with a star in Tom Hardy. And it's this. So I just might not be his, like, maybe he's got some good ideas and he needs, unfortunately, the best movie I think he has is Chronicle, which is, what's his face? The terrible guy wrote that. I can't remember what his name is. Landis. Max Landis. Not a great guy.
Sure.
But that was matching his directing skills with someone's strong story, and it works out. This is that Simon Kinberg guy, I think, wrote this. For reference, he wrote and directed Dark Phoenix. So I think so it's like maybe he needed someone stronger writing on this one too.
Yeah. I have this at D tier. Like I said, I like the elements, the ideas that they put into this so much that I can't put this at F tier, but I can't put it higher than C. Like, this is just it's a bad movie.
This is a D.
But the ideas there are so good. Like the fact that Reed is not automatically in control of his powers and has to like learn to keep himself together.
And there's like
to
the
me,
body horror element of it at first. Yeah.
Absolutely. And like the fact that if you get these powers, you're not immediately having fun with them. This, like Johnny Storm being like, I'm on fire. Like, I'm like, this is really good stuff. It's really good body horror stuff. And realistically, if this were to happen, what would happen? You would be taken over by the military, and to what the Thing is doing is like, you're a killing machine.
And that's what I liked about it, is that like, I think all of that was good to be like, we are setting up our own Fantastic Four. This is our version of it. It's just, it literally is boxed in. They don't leave that facility.
That sucks.
Until the end. Like, and I don't mean to fight the bad guy at the end. It's literally just at the end they're like, oh, okay, now we're at the Franklin Institute. Apocalypse, X-Men Apocalypse 2016. This movie really tricked me. I remember being so positive about it when we first reviewed it. And then like weeks later I was like, I guess this movie sucks. And I just liked that they were in the actual costumes at the end.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Because it looked good. It really did. But it's, you're right.
I think I was like, oh yeah, and Psylocke is in it. But then she's not. It's not even worth bringing up that Psylocke is in it. I don't know.
I all have forgot this movie. All I remember is the drama around, like, why does he look like that? And I'm like,
Apocalypse,
like, and like, it's the lighting of the scene, like, in the Ivan Ooze comments that were coming out. I think
it's just he's not like the cartoon character, so you are like, what? And I'm not basing that. I'm saying that because that's the character in motion
Yes.
Obviously, when you draw it and you can fill in the blanks for yourself, it's different. But in
Mhm.
motion, he's not even the cartoon character. So it seemed like they overcomplicated things. And I know that even Oscar Isaac was like, it was really disappointing because I love that character from
Mhm.
the cartoon, and I didn't get to do that. So that was a bummer.
Mhm.
Um, um, yeah, I don't know. It's also, I didn't really think it was a good like. I didn't like their idea for how Professor X goes bald in this. I was like, oh, that. All right,
Yeah.
okay,
It's a bit
whatever.
weird.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Is this another D or a C?
I have it at C, but I'm not willing to defend it at a
I'm
C.
gonna
So if
keep it
you
at
had it
C.
at, yeah,
No, I'm
okay.
gonna keep it at C.
Right.
Uh, so
Next on
what?
the list, we have Deadpool. Deadpool 1.
Yeah,
Where are you with this?
I think I'm at an A with this.
Yeah.
I feel like they did a great job. It has its limitations on purpose. So to me, it's
Mhm.
like it nailed what it was supposed to do, and then was something a bit more.
Mhm.
It feels like an A plus to me. Uh,
Yeah.
because yeah, I mean, there's just the obvious limitations with Deadpool. It's for a very specific type of temperament.
Mhm.
It's not for everybody.
Mhm.
Um, it is it. Yeah, I think that's my thing. Is it doesn't feel transcendent in any like it doesn't feel big in that way. It just feels like wow, okay, they nailed it. Good job. You did
Yeah.
what you needed to do.
And maybe I have it at S tier. I like that you were like A plus tier, but I have it at S tier because I'm like they got everything about the character right. There was a lot of great moments, a lot of great writing and all that kind of stuff. It has its issues, but to me it's like putting it at A tier seems undervaluing it. Putting it at S tier seems weird. A plus tier is good, but I don't think we have an A plus tier in this regard unless we're willing to make one up. But I think it's genuinely S tier material because it's just it is the actual character finally after what you get out of the Wolverine Origins movie. And it's the fact that Ryan Reynolds forced this movie into existence to me is like, okay, whatever we want to think about that. It's effectively done because you could tell like the way it's done, he's a fan of the character and he knows what to do with the character. So I have it at S tier for
I'll
myself.
give you that.
Yeah.
Um, S tier for Deadpool.
Yeah.
Uh,
I did
Logan.
it. Logan. Okay, this is easy. For me, it's an S tier movie.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
Really?
No, I'm not a Logan fan like everyone else. I think the issue I have with it is that it's so far divorced from what we were doing with this Hugh Jackman iteration of Wolverine that it doesn't feel like a proper goodbye. It feels like we're missing opportunities. And it also is reverting to that we're ashamed of the comic book aspect. The whole like we're just
Mm,
pushing this as a Western. I don't yeah, and I don't think there's actually I think there's legitimate like just logic flaws in
yes,
some
there
of
are.
it in terms of it. I think it's an A movie.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's S tier. I
Okay.
think that it's very firmly a solid movie.
Okay.
I don't
I'll. Yeah. I hear what you're saying because what's that one character that they had that was like killed
Caliban,
in Caliban? Yeah, that they just
who was
reused
just in
here.
Apocalypse before that, and like it's just a
Yeah.
complete, which is whatever. It's Fox. That's what they do. They don't care about continuity. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, I think um
It's
my issue with
exhausting.
it still is like and obviously it came out when it came out, and then
Mhm,
7 years later they're like we got to put him in the suit. But I
mhm,
do think if you're saying goodbye to him, uh he needs to be in the suit, and it could have been that X-24 character, what or
mhm.
X-20, I think it's X-24, the young clone of him,
Yeah.
to symbolically be like let's kill off that idea you have of
Yeah.
the this is the Wolverine.
Mhm.
um but it just wasn't doing that, and it was so far removed from everything else that I was like, yeah, I don't know. This just feels like a cool one-off movie. It does not feel like actually doing a proper goodbye to this character we've been with at that point for 17 years.
Yeah, I see your point. Yeah, I'm willing to move it down to A tier. You're right about a lot of different things. Like if this was a the actual goodbye to the Wolverine character, then there should have been a little bit more fan service to it, like the
I don't
costume,
even
like you
I
said.
wouldn't consider it fans, or I would just say like tying off the like resolutions for some of this stuff. It all
Mhm.
happens off screen.
Sure. Yeah. I didn't like having to say goodbye twice to Professor Xavier in the sense where
Mm.
you like you got to kill it felt less impactful even though it was very impactful if you look at just this movie alone and what in the context that it's happening there and all that kind of stuff, but it's just like yeah we got killed in uh friggin' what is it, Last Stand already pretty epically,
Mm.
and then you got to do it again here, but the actual send off of Logan to me at the time, it hit a lot of emotional notes. But you raise a lot of good points there, so A tier it is.
Deadpool 2. Um, to me, I'm just gonna spoil it now. All the Deadpool movies to me are A. Like it's the character doing what it needs to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have Deadpool at S, the 1st
Mhm.
one.
Yes.
I don't think this is better than the first one. To me, I think they're pretty even, but I understand the um the how fresh it felt the first time around.
Mhm.
But I think all three Deadpool movies understand what makes it work specifically for film, and gets that done.
Mhm.
I understand people's issue with the whole killing off the girlfriend to motivate him, but
Mhm.
it felt different only because she's still throughout the whole movie.
Mhm.
It wasn't just getting rid of a character to make him feel like it wasn't like a recent example of on Secret Invasion. It wasn't like killing off Maria Hill
Mhm.
and then she's actually just gone for the
Yeah.
rest of the time.
Mhm.
This was like she's dead, but she's there the whole movie, and then she comes back at the end.
Mhm.
So it just didn't feel like fridging in that sense.
It wasn't a genuine fridging moment, for sure. I originally had it at A tier because yeah, this is definitely not as strong as the first Deadpool. You already know what you're expecting. A lot of the same beats are going on again and all that kind of stuff. But that's the important thing to note about a character like Deadpool and Wade Wilson is that yeah, this is a guy that really is just hedonistic and it's a one note kind of thing, unless there is that source of the hedonism being drawn away from him. There's no real need to change. So it's really difficult to write this character in a movie standpoint to be like, what is his motivation other than selfishness? And that's why to me it's not as strong as the first Deadpool, because the first Deadpool is nice, it's good, it's got everything there. But in this, it's just like it's just funny, and then you have like little cameo jokes and all that kind of stuff that build off, and
Yeah, I
that
would
part was
disagree with
good.
that. I think that all three of them
Mhm.
understand what the emotional push is.
Right.
First one is, can I be loved by someone else
Sure.
in Vanessa? The second one is, can I love someone else not in a romantic way? Could I be a parent? That's their
Mhm.
whole thing, right?
Mhm.
I'm not saying that has to connect with everyone, but that is what's going on.
Sure.
Can he be a parent? Can he be responsible for someone else? You'll notice in that movie he's got two separate teams going.
Mhm.
He's got the task force, or not task. He's got X Force, and
Mhm.
then he's got the Cable Domino team as well,
Right.
and he's got like a surrogate son.
Mhm.
So those are the two emotional things I think they do both of them well in both movies. And then the third one, obviously, we know is about, can I matter in
Mhm.
this? And again, I think all three movies always explore those emotional things properly through character choices. Like there wasn't a character in the second one where I was like, ugh, why are they here? Everything is happening for a reason and on purpose, and is exploring the theme for the most part. Even
Gotcha.
when you think of Juggernaut and his relationship with like Black Tom Cassidy and that relationship, it is smart selections for the themes they're exploring.
Right.
While I think that maybe it goes on a bit too long, in the second one, which is why I would put the first one above it. I think they're more even than people give them credit for.
That's fair. Yeah, I had this at Deadpool 2 at A tier. I was like not willing to say it's an S tier movie because it's just there are issues with it, and all of which you pointed out just now. And it's good entertainment, but it's not S tier.
Who's next? Dark Phoenix, 2019.
Yikes.
I think, well, I've only seen it the one time, and my viewing experience was like, yeah, whatever. I don't have like anger for it like other people do. I think when you think about it, you're like, wow, they don't even give the villain a name. Like, no one says her name to her face. I don't think Jessica Chastain even knew what her character name was when she was filming. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So that obviously means it's gonna land on the bottom half of this, but I don't think, like, I feel like people are like, what a terrible movie. I'm like, it's just like, it's an X-Men adventure. I wasn't really I wasn't offended by this, other than like, oh, what a stupid way to use Jessica Chastain. But I thought it was fine. Like, I probably would have it at C or D.
I have it at C. I did not think this was overly offensive. It wasn't good, but it was like, yeah, to your point, that's an X-Men movie. Great. It just felt like an episode of something where it's like, cool, great.
And they got to do like the space stuff at the beginning. They killed off Mystique. I don't know if that's a plus or a negative. And yeah, as I said, I don't really care about the Dark Phoenix saga. So like the fact that it's not a successful Dark Phoenix story was kind of irrelevant to me.
Sure.
Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I can see how it would be lower on other people's, but I was just like, I don't care about that.
It's just, and this is the movie where he has to go back to Rose Byrne and like, hey, I mind wiped you, and then he's got
Apocalypse.
That's yeah. See, this
I don't think
aside from First Class, these movies to me are just like, oh, it's messy at best. But I have it at C tier. It wasn't overly offensive, and at this point, like you said, the Fox franchise has just been like, okay, we're not going to question continuity anymore because they are not caring about that anymore. The great thing that this does do, I think, is just wait, no, it doesn't. Never mind. That Apocalypse did that. Never mind.
What?
The costumes.
Oh yeah.
The original costumes.
No, they switched up the costume for this, right?
Yeah, which was like, why did you do that? I mean,
it still was at least comic accurate costumes. It just wasn't the interesting like 90s.
Yeah, because that was good. It was good. And I like the thing that they had where it's like, we're gonna focus on an era for each one of these movies. That part was good.
Also not great to remember, because then you're like, so these guys are supposed to be aging 10 years in between movies and they look exactly the same.
Yeah. And then it's just kids. Like, and then when you remember X-Men, it was like, that was basically the turn of the century. That was 99, 2000. And then it's like, wait, this is 10 years ago. And you have McAvoy and then Fassbender.
Because Dark Phoenix is supposed to be the 90s. So
yeah. It's like super aging them and all that kind of stuff. You're like,
it's not a great thing to remember that they were actually trying to do a different decade each movie, but
true.
It was nice in theory.
Yeah. It was good from a costume design and set piece design perspective.
New Mutants. I actually have this at F. I thought this was actually
it's horrible. It's so bad. It's so bad. I have this at F2. It's not good. When they were like, it took so long to come out, I'm like, yeah, I get why. This is just, how do you save this movie?
So the things I didn't like, one, we already talked about it during X-Men 97, that the director was like, I'm not casting a black person for this character that should be black in Sunfire. But in addition to that, there's like the unchecked racism of like Anya Taylor-Joy's character, was it Magic?
Magic,
where she just keeps making fun of the native character, and you're just like, and she's gonna live at the end, and we're supposed to be like, oh, she's a hero. Like, what? Why did they add this element? Like, if she changed or something or got checked, that would be one thing. But it's like unchecked. It's just like, yeah, I guess she's a bully, and now she's not.
Yep,
not great.
It's
especially
not a good
knowing like the mindset of the director making the movie of like, no need to look for black people for this.
Yeah, it's not
Or
a good
like
movie.
Rosario Dawson, who plays as, when I say play, as in like, she reads as Afro Latino,
Mhm.
getting ousted from the movie as well for the more Euro Latino person
Mhm.
replacing her. It just was like, what's going on in this movie? In addition to me just thinking it's not good.
It's hard to watch. It's hard to watch, and it's just so sad.
And they keep teasing Mr. Sinister in it with just like text, and I'm like, what are we doing? You've been teasing this guy since like Apocalypse,
Yeah,
which I guess is only 3 years, but felt like a bunch of movies in between.
yeah, yeah. It felt like, when are we gonna get to Apocalypse? More than anything else. And
Sorry, I
then
meant
I
Mr.
mean, no,
Sinister,
sorry, Sinister,
I
not
meant Mr.
Apocalypse.
Sinister.
No, so did I. It felt like this. It was like, when are we gonna actually get this threat? And I'm like, oh, they're gonna do the thing. I get why the whole thing is funded by Sinister, but oh, this team, this director, this story going into the Sinister thing, I'm like, you can't convince me that they're gonna win against Sinister. Let alone me be interested in what they're gonna do with it.
No, it felt like a waste of a what seemed like talented cast.
Yes, yeah, because they were talented, up and coming. They're like, you had the
the Stranger Things
Maisie,
guy, the Game of Thrones woman, Anya Taylor-Joy,
yeah,
more people.
yeah. It seemed like they had something good to launch here, a different perspective, and the idea of like, ooh, a horror-based kind of thing. I'm like,
What if it was
I
a
was
slasher movie where the people being slashed have superpowers was such a great hook, and then the
yes,
movie was like, nah, don't worry
this is
about it.
bad. This is very, very
They just
bad.
have bad nightmares.
And it's not like the kind of bad that I like, where like Madam Web bad. This is just bad. I did not like any of this. So yeah, I'm with you. F tier. Not good.
All right,
Moving
last
right
one.
along.
Last
Deadpool
one.
and Wolverine.
I've already said I put it at A.
Yeah.
It's good. I don't think any of the Deadpool movies elevate to S, but I'll give you the first one
Right.
if you want. I think they're some of my favorite of the Fox universe because as a 3 movie thing, they're most consistent and they have the benefit of being able to break the wall. So in the second one, when Deadpool was like, so wait, which timeline is this one? McAvoy or Stewart? Like, you could get away with jokes like that because he doesn't have to be consistent. He knows that he's in a movie.
Right.
But
it was
I feel like it's limited mileage. But as I said, emotionally this movie worked for me. I understand what's bad about it.
Yeah. I'm right with you. I was not willing to put this above A, for sure. I have it at A as well. To me, the Deadpool broke the mold. It was able to stand. It did a lot of different things. To me, this is a really good movie, but it's an A movie. It's not an S tier movie. Yeah,
I agree.
and y'all can listen back to that episode that we did for this movie because it's a fun one.
Yeah, what episode is that? Hold on, I'll let people know so they can go back and listen. Boy, episode 297. Go check out that.
Nice.
I mean, I feel like we've done an episode about all of these except for Elektra.
Yes, that is true.
But
I'm not willing to do an Elektra movie. I'm not willing to do an Elektra one because I feel like it's just
we might do it with a guest or something for fun, but we're not gonna.
Yeah,
I don't think we're gonna commit to doing that on our own.
No, I think there's enough stuff coming out that arguably we might be past that lull from the actors and the strikes that affected the content releases for this year. I'm not willing to go back to that unless we have a guest that's like, yeah, let's do this for shits and gigs. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, it's rough.
So the tier list as it stands, we have at F tier, Origins and New Mutants. At D tier, Elektra, Last Stand, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Fan Four Stick. Then at C tier, we've got Daredevil, Fantastic Four, Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix. At B tier, All Alone is the Wolverine. At A tier is X-Men, Days of Future Past, Logan, Deadpool 2, Deadpool and Wolverine. And at S tier, we have X2, First Class, and Deadpool.
Yep.
Perfect.
Stamp it. It's good.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for listening, everybody. We are, as I mentioned, we recently added to YouTube. You can listen there, and you can listen on any podcast platform of your choice. Rate, review, subscribe, follow, share with your friends. You should probably subscribe to our YouTube channel as well.
Yeah.
We are at TDF Spoiled on Instagram, Twitter, Threads. So get in touch there. And our email is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. Also, yeah, on YouTube, you're not going to be able to get all the episodes. So go to tdferything.com/spoiledrotten. And you will find everything there, as well as all the links to everything I said. Perfect. All right, then. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.